Hello, sisters. Welcome to the Sacred Medicine Podcast, weaving powerful, soulful practices into functional medicine. Step into this beautiful space of devotion and explore everything from nurturing foods, rituals, sexuality, and awakening your innate sensuality. It is time to own your radiance. This is the Sacred Medicine Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another week of the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero. We are actually finally seeing springtime and things are blooming all over the place over here on the East Coast. It looks so beautiful. Yet officially allergy season is here. So I've been seeing a lot of that at the clinic and been experiencing a little bit of that myself. So this week we have Liyana Silver. She is the author of Feminine Genius, The Provocative Path to Waking Up and Turning on the Wisdom of Being a Woman. She is also a coach, a teacher, and a torch holder who helps women find the full expression of their feminine strength in love, work, and life. So I had heard about her through another friend and loved the title of her book, loved what she was all about and her mission in life, and wanted to invite her on the show just to learn a little bit more about her book. So we talk about what is the feminine genius? What is it in us women that makes us so freaking spot on smart? And we talk a lot about our intuition, which I put my 2 cents in there regarding my thoughts around intuition and how we can harness that and how we can actually improve our intuitive abilities. You may think it's all hocus pocus, but it's really not. It's something that all of us, men and women, have, and it's just a matter of really developing it as a skill. It's really, really cool. And so we talk about intuition. We also talk about how do we actually turn on our feminine genius? What if we feel like, we kind of walk through life not really in full expression of our feminine. We kind of live maybe a little bit of a dull life and not fully grasping what our genius really is. So we talk about how to harness that, how to really turn that on. And she gives some tips. And I also talk about some of the things that I do to turn on that feminine genius on a daily basis. We also really dive deeply into our sensual animal, which is something that I just love talking about. So we talk about that connection. And unfortunately, in my practice in Manhattan, I see a lot of women who are really no longer tapped into their sensual. I mean, I think they've lost not only their libido, but their connection to their beautiful sensual self. So we talk about how to really tap back into that, because I feel like it's such an important, what a beautiful aspect of ourselves that we get to sort of indulge in. And it doesn't have to mean that we need a partner to indulge in that part of ourselves. No way. I mean, it's something that we can practice on our own in many different ways. So we talk about that. And what to do if you kind of feel a little bit, like I had said, like really dull and depleted, some steps to really tap into that beautiful feminine, kind of even creating the space like where you live or your desk, and creating a beautiful kind of scenario for your beautiful feminine to live in. And that's it. I really hope you enjoy this interview, and on to the show. This week, my guest is Liyana Silver. She is the author of Feminine Genius, The Provocative Path to Waking Up and Turning on the Wisdom of Being a Woman. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm happy to be here.
I really love the title of your book. It so resonates with me, and I think that it will so resonate with my audience of women. You know, my podcast was made to sort of empower women on many different levels, whether it's health or sexuality or sensuality or relationships. There was something about just simply the title of your book that really drew me in. So I would love to just slowly just unpack some of the beautiful things that you weave through your book.
Sounds wonderful.
So I would love to know describe one of the things that is like our innate genius when, as a woman.
So lately I've been defining feminine genius, which is some things are hard to pin down and define. Feminine genius is one of them. But lately I've been playing with the definition that feminine genius is sort of a set of strengths that most of us feel are not strengths, at least at the outset, at least how we've been raised or, what we're working through. So to me, feminine genius is a combination of things like strengths, like our intuition, our feelings and emotion, our body, our ability to connect deeply, our sensuality, and kind of in this realm. Now, not every woman is going to feel like these are not strengths. Some are just going to feel like that's a natural part of their being. I think what a lot of us resonate with, though, is that we walk in the world that is built for men and built more for what I call masculine genius. And then we look around and we go, oh, I feel too much. I want too much. I am too much. I need too much. I'm this size or that size. And there's all these parts of us we go, that is not welcome. That's not a strength. I'm going to shove that down, put it in the closet, stick it under the floorboards, and be a different version of a woman or be more like a man. And that was certainly a version of my story. And so I feel like it's been revelatory to realize that these things are not only strengths, they're genius. Like they have this incredible intelligence to them.
Yes. And I think that intuition, let me backtrack a little bit. I think that when women think, when a woman is feminine, it is seen as a weakness. It's not like masculine and strong. I think that there are aspects in women certainly that are very strong. Can you highlight a couple of those strengths? Like intuition was one, and I think that that's something that sort of like lives in us. And I think men are intuitive as well. Would you say that women we inhabit that a little bit easier?
So I'll just say a few things just to put it out there. I feel like feminine genius, we can get kind of conceptual, kind of quick, but in a way I would say that feminine genius is in every human being, regardless of gender, wherever one would place oneself on the spectrum of gender. I do work mainly with women, human beings who are identified as women. And so I've often had my father-in-law is a big fan of my book. Many men have read it. Men have written in and said, "I want access to my feminine genius." So it's within us. So I just tend to work with women, and I think like this is just kind of the slice we're working with here. The main ones, I would say, yes, intuition. Oh, men have this as well. Your question is so good. There is. So intuition is another one of these things, a little hard to define, but it's defined, I like this definition, as immediate knowing, to know something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. So to know something, and we only know intuition in our bodies. It is not a knowing of the intellect. It is not a knowing of thought, although thoughts might come to corroborate or to enhance it. But what we're talking about is body knowing. There is a prescient, immediate knowing that we sense it, we feel it, and it is a deep bone, muscular knowing. And I think that women can tend to have a little more access to it for a zillion different reasons. Like for the most part, it's a little more culturally sanctioned for women to have more access to our feelings. One could argue that the feminine brain is more suited to have conversation between right and left brain so that feelings and thoughts are really interwoven, where it's often different in a more masculine brain. Well, we could get off into a big tangent.
Right.
But so yeah, I think women have a little easier access to it, but we're not the sole possessors of intuition by any stretch.
Yes.
But,
just going back to the brain again. Yes. So true about a woman's brain. So our corpus callosum, which connects our left and right brain, is a lot thicker than most men, except in men who are left-handed, who tend to have larger corpus callosum, and they can integrate left and right brain and be a little bit more tapped in emotionally than men that are right-handed. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but really interesting.
Ooh, that's new to me. Yeah. My father, he's passed away like 10 years, but he was left-handed. So now I'm going to have to rethink some things about him. That will be fun.
Yeah.
Fun to think about. Yeah.
So I love this. I love your definition. Immediate knowing without conscious reasoning. I had to write that down because I absolutely love that. That's exactly what it is. And it's a feeling, like even when maybe if you meet someone and you're not really sure why, maybe you just don't like them and you're like, oh, I don't even know why. It's just, or someone wants to, let's say, because this just happened with me recently. Me and my girlfriend, we're trying to find a place to go visit, and we were, even just listing off some places, and things either excite you or they don't. And you're like, no. I mean, those are sort of, I feel that helps me make a decision because it's really, I feel it in my body, whether it's yes or a no. And it is pretty immediate. It's not something I have to think about. It comes on pretty suddenly. And so, and I think, like a lot of people tend to just like push that away. Even if they get a huge no, they're like, well, but it is much cheaper to travel there. And you don't really feel it, but it's cheap and your other friend wants to go, but you're like, I don't know why I'm not feeling it. You know what I mean?
Or it's cheap, or he wants to, but I don't, but it makes good sense. It makes logical sense. It's the plan, Yeah, all those reasons. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's so I think that we do most of us live in a culture where things making sense to the rational, logical, linear mind is really highly prized, and so I think that can be a way that we really war with this incredible genius part of us that absolutely knows, like our body it has access to information that our mind doesn't have access to. And yet we discount it, so we're having to rediscover this innate part of ourselves because, of a cultural being culturally skewed toward, it's cheaper.
Right.
or he knows, I don't know. Yeah.
And then let's say you do decide to go on the trip that you're not really feeling. And then let's just say, God forbid, like something happens or flights are delayed or something got canceled or whatever. And then I know that everyone listening to this at one point in their life has thought, I knew I shouldn't have whatever it was. I knew I shouldn't have gone. I had a feeling. And you kind of ignore the feeling. And then you kind of just like, cross the fingers and kind of just proceed. Rather than sort of relying on that initial, like what really excited you? Was it that other place that may be a little bit more expensive, but maybe that's the thing, that's going to bring who knows what, but yeah, sort of. And I love, the act of, being led, sort of, because those feelings is what gets you to the next thing and then the next thing and then the next thing.
I'm so glad you said that, because to me, what you're saying is one of the reasons why intuition is so genius is it feels to me like our interface between our day to day, walking around in a body existence, and a consciousness. You could call it soul, or you could call it the divine, whatever. Like, there is a consciousness that, because it's just massively larger than our pinpointed focus as a little human, goes, no, that's the direction you should go. I have a whole vantage point you don't have, little human. That's why I'm pointing you in that direction. Like I'm holding your whole life journey, all the things that are really important for you to learn and grow into. No, I'm nudging you in that direction. I know it doesn't make any sense to your rational mind, but you don't have the vantage point that I have. And that's when I think they're really exciting. They're humbling, but exciting things about being led, like allowing your intuition to lead.
And it's constantly course correcting, because I feel like you never really make a mistake. Like you may think that you made a mistake, but then it sort of leads you down a really cool path where you're not really sure exactly where you're headed. And then let's say you think you make a mistake, and then everything just kind of course corrects until the next thing. And I love it.
Yes. Well, I think we're not here to get life right. I think we're here to learn stuff and grow and expand. I think this is something that that's like a constant reminder that that intuition, especially, I feel like it is iterative. It is that very process of going, oh, I knew I should have gone to the other place. I had a feeling, I discounted it. That there's another step to that process, which is, what did I overlook? What did I override? Okay, great. So I'm not going to do that next time. Next time I'm going to actually listen. I'm going to turn up that feeling in my belly or on my arms or wherever that feeling is. I'm going to turn it up. I'm going to listen to it a little bit more, because I'm going to, great, I'm going to hone it. I'm going to refine this skill. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to. That's not a mistake, as you're saying. But this can be honed. Like, intuition is like a Olympic sport or something. You can get better at it, right? Yeah.
Yes, totally. And so how do we turn on our feminine genius if it's sort of been suppressed, or how do we sort of bring it to life and have that be the thing that guides us more in life?
Well, there's so many ways, of course. And I think the first thing is just a turning toward a willingness, a curiosity to look at any of these, we're calling them strengths, these aspects of the genius that turn toward our intuition, turn toward our sensuality, our feelings, our ups and downs. I call them cycles. To kind of look with curiosity toward these aspects of ourselves that we might think are bad or wrong or inefficient or insufficient, and to get curious and to go toward them and to say, what could be good about this? I'm afraid of my rage. But if I went toward it, if I looked at it with curiosity and thought, why is this is wise. It's here for a reason. And I think so that process of, maybe this part of me isn't bad and wrong, or maybe this part is wise, good, genius. I think that's the gateway drug. that's the gateway drug to feminine genius.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, can you give us an example of like one thing that we can do if we find ourselves like not really inhabiting necessarily, or being able to practice and have these sort of, I feel like they're like magical tools that we as women kind of have at our fingertips, and how do we kind of just make them stronger? I know you said to, go towards them, but how do we know what we're moving towards?
Yeah, great question. Well, let me just sort of go through it's a short exercise. Anyways, I'll make it a little bit
Yeah.
shorter. It sounds like something you put this, kind of get to spun this off the top of your head. It sounds like something you either cultivated yourself or it's a natural ability in you. And so I want to kind of highlight it. And what you said was, we have this, your body just says a yes or a no. Now, everybody's body says yes or no, whether we know it, whether we understand the particular signature, the particular way our body says yes or our body says no. We might not know it. We might not be as much of a feelings and sensation processor, all that. But so one of the things I think that is really good is to just to go, all right, I want to learn and hone how I want to understand when my body's saying yes. And I want to understand when it's saying no. And then as a second step, I want to be in the dialogue, and I'm going to ask questions about which way to turn at the stoplight and what thing to wear to work and whether or not to say yes to the date or to go on a second date. And I'm going to be in that conversation with my body. And the third step is to actually try to go in the direction of the yeses more often, and not in the direction of the nos more often, and to like get in that practice.
Yes.
Yes, and I say to do this with low stakes questions first, so that you're not like, should I put my life savings in this investment? Now I just figured out how my body says yes yesterday. Like you just want to do it where you can get your comfort level about you.
Right. Right. Yeah. And
Yes.
it's really, and I think that I mean, it definitely takes a little practice.
Mm.
And once you know what a full-on yes feels like in your body, even though something may sound like, oh, come on, seriously, is that the choice? If someone said, so one of my girlfriends is like, okay, well, where are we going to go winter of 2019? And so we were thinking of a couple places, and we both agreed upon like Tahiti. And so for me, that was a full-on yes. There was no like, oh, wait, how much is that flight? Is it? No, it wasn't any of that. It was more like, oh my God, yes, that feels really good. Like right away, you feel it. It's like a positive, like joyful kind of like, yes, all of that feels really good in my body. If she had said like, I don't know, some other place that I don't even think that she said any place that I had a bad reaction to, but I think that once you start to really allow yourself to feel the feelings, it will come on with everything that you're trying to decide in life.
Exactly. And it's an exercise in my book that you mentioned, and it's also a free video training on my website. But let me just go briefly through this exercise for
Please.
those people who are like, okay, I think I know what she's talking about. But so one way to do it, only one way, this is not the way, but one way is to just take a few moments, calm your breathing, just get in your body. And then what you want to do is you're asking your body. So maybe it's helpful to put your hands on your belly or your legs and not on your head. Like you're not asking your head or your mind or your thoughts. You're asking yourself, meaning your body, a series of questions. And I'll tell you the ones I use. And I use them because you want to ask yourself a question that you know the answer is already yes to. Like, my name is Margaret. So if you ask your body, is my name Margaret? Your body is going to respond with a particular set of sensations like warm, tingly, excited, or emotions, more like excited, joyful, positive. Those are really super common, by the way. Not everybody has them, but that's a very similar cocktail for a yes. Also questions like, do I feel so alive when I'm running track? which would be not for me, not for Liyana, but for someone out there, they're going to just like be in their zone when they're running track.
All right.
So you ask yourself, like, do I feel so alive when I do X? Do I feel most myself when I do X? So these are questions that I am. This is who I am. I am Margaret. I am Liyana. What brings me alive, right? When I feel most myself? These are things that are help generate a yes response. So then you just notice and you go, what did I feel? What's the common denominator of all the answers that my body gave to those 3 or 4 questions? What were the sensations that were similar? Emotions that were similar? And where in my body did I feel them?
Mm-hmm.
And something will emerge. And there's no right answer. This is different for everybody. But, for me, and I've been doing this a long time, so it gets kind of super subtle, but I feel it's like a very low belly, pelvis and low belly. That's where it starts. And then it'll come up into my heart.
Yes.
And it feels, there is like almost like the thump of bass, like a bass song that's playing in a car that's passing by. And it feels very expansive and warm and tingly. And that's a very clear yes. Is that similar for you?
I get it mostly in my chest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sort of a really joyful feeling that sort of overcomes me. And I'm like, yes, that's it. It comes on and it's instant.
Yes. And I will say too, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm going to say though, so this is profound actually, that your intuitive yes of your body would feel good. It's always going to feel good. It's always going to feel good to your body in whatever way it does. It doesn't mean that the thing that is good will feel good. It's just that your yes feels like an affirmation. It feels like good. It may be that you're getting a yes to go have a very difficult conversation with your boyfriend you want to break up with. But that's going to suck.
Right.
But it still might be it's a confirming feeling that feels right and good to our bodies. And what a contradiction to what we're taught, which is that everything should feel bad or hard or, whoa, if I go for what feels good, am I just going to stay in bed and be promiscuous and eat chocolate cake all day? I think everything I want is bad for me. So this is a real, I think like it reorients us in a really profound way.
I love that. I love that exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's something that that is innate within us, but it does require you to be observant of it and to just be more open to it. Because if you're kind of like, whatever, this flight is the cheapest, so that's where we're going, even though, do you know what I mean? It does require, I think it definitely gets easier the more you notice and the more you rely on it.
Yes, I'm 100% underscoring that. It gets easier and more of a default setting. And I think that it's really important to acknowledge what you said, which is that the voices of other people's advice and other people's prices, for the airline tickets. Right. Your mind, the voices of your mind, whether it's prudent, logical, does it make sense? Does it scare you? Any of those mind voices, they're louder. They're on an easier frequency than the voice of your intuition, at least for most of us. So I think it's just nice to acknowledge if you're not hearing your intuition, it's like you got a loud radio station playing in your head, and it just takes some time to turn the volume down on that and turn it up on your intuitive sense.
So true.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was that you talk about in your book is about embracing our sensual nature, which I just love talking about this stuff so much. So
great.
Let's talk about that. I have a medical practice, integrated functional medical practice in Manhattan, and I have to admit that the majority of women that come to see me have really lost that sensual piece. And forget sexual. I mean, they're sort of low libidos. Their hormones are not balanced. They come to me for all kinds of hormonal and thyroid problems, adrenals, and things like that. And so not only is their libido low, but they have lost all connection to their sensual being. And I would love to hear your take on this.
Well, thank God, goddess, for your work. I've worked with my share of functional medicine practitioners for those very things. I think this is a modern woman's affliction. Oh, our little thyroids and our hormone systems are getting beat up by this patriarchal world that we live in.
So true.
Yeah. So thank you for your work. So I'm right there with you. I am on the other side of a pretty massive health trough, right in this arena. So I have a lot to say about this. I think there's a lot of reasons. Life is busy, and we think I'll enjoy my life later. So one of those is the reason. I think it's very sensuality. There's a gradation, I think, between sensuality and sexuality. There's sort of the similar energy, maybe just on one ends of the spectrum. And I think that is an incredibly taboo area for women. It's incredibly confusing. To me, I feel like most women and girls are taught to regard themselves, their bodies, and their value from the outside in, from being looked at. I am valuable when I am perceived as beautiful. I am worth something when someone else finds me sexually desirable. I am having a good time when someone else has put their stamp of affirmation on me. And what gets lost is, what do you feel? What do you want? Like, what do you see? Like, what do you know? This sort of like living from your internal world out. It's very, very taken away from girls and women. And the thing is about our sensuality is you cannot fake it. Like, this is just something that you are drawn toward. You are drawn to that smell or that taste or the feel of that particular fabric on your skin. You either are a yes or you're a no. Like, this is undeniably your experience. And we are so taught to discount and modify our own experiences. So I think that's kind of what we're working with. Hormonally, when our hormones go off, it's like we're in a black and white world instead of a full spectrum color world. So I think that has an aspect to it, a different aspect. I think it's so. I would say for myself, it's a very confusing arena. To be, like, on one hand trying to be sexy, and on the other hand try not be sexy. Like, I don't want to be a sensual person because then I'm going to be a slut, and I don't want to show enjoyment or show pleasure because, oh boy, then I could ruin my reputation. But I'm supposed to act in a certain way to get the attention of people who affirm my worth. And what are we doing here? So I've just described a very fraught area for us. I think one of the things that has been so revelatory about sensual energy is two main things. One is to see that sensual energy, it is again our interface with, it's how information from the world gets into our bodies, and it's how information from our internal world it is our conversation with the world. And it is purely life energy. It is pure, other traditions call it chi. In Asian traditions, prana, in Indian traditions, other traditions understand that this life energy that animates our body is sensual in nature. It is sensate. We must feel it. We must look at it. We must taste it. We must smell it. And I would call our intuition our sixth sense. I'm not the only one who says that, right? But it is a sense. It is our interface. So somehow knowing that this energy is life energy and knowing that it is sacred, knowing that it is divine, knowing that it is holy, whatever word is resonates, has been incredibly useful for me. There's a huge split that says sensual and sexual energy is wrong, dirty. It's the thing that makes you more animal than human. It's the thing that separates you from whatever your name of is for your God. And to say that no, actually, it is the thing that connects you to what is divine for you. It is the thing that makes you fully human. Like this, our sensuality, this is it. This thing that we've been so afraid of is actually our doorway through. This has been really, really helpful for me personally.
Mm. And so, I think that the word sensuality has a real, like a bad connotation. And I think it's like, not, because I don't think that sensuality at all is, I don't see it as a bad thing at all. I think it's all within us and it's beautiful. And it is the thing that the opposite sex loves about women. But not only that, I mean, I practice sensual dance almost every single day. And it is not in the presence of anyone else. I will hear a song and I immediately have to stop everything and I have to do, even if it is for 25 seconds, I need to like close my eyes and like get into the music. And it's like, it's not meant to like, let's give someone a lap dance or anything like that. It's like this sensual part of you that isn't meant to be necessarily pleasure for anyone else, because it brings me pleasure when I stop and really take in the music and my body just kind of like moves with it and it just feels so good. And it changes, like before I go on a date, and let's say I've been working all day, whether I'm in the city or working from home that day, I can't go like from work to a date. I have to kind of like switch out of because I've been on in a different way, not necessarily in my feminine when I'm working or seeing patients or something like that. So for me, sensual movement is my like gateway into tapping right in into, it's like just diving in to the feminine pool. And it takes me there. And now in like no time, it takes me there. I drop in and I go on my date and it vibrates. It's like, it's my being. It comes out. It's like delicious and luscious and it's palpable. And I don't have to really do anything. I don't have to, I mean, it's not I'm not trying to seduce, though I can if I wanted to, but it's just a way of being that's just like this. It's like that most beautiful, like nectar of, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like this delicious nectar that all of us women have inside that when you tap into it and it's like right on the surface and people can just completely taste and smell and feel it. And they're like, huh. And I can tell the difference because I'll do the practice and I'll go on the date compared to if I'm like rushing from work to a date and I don't have time to do anything. I feel like I'm on an interview. There's nothing sexy about it. I'm not in my turn on, and it's a completely different experience. And so I I invite women to just have some kind of sensual practice. And for me, it's sensual dance. And do you have something that you like doing?
Oh, let me add to that, but that's kind of a full stop in and of itself. And I'm so glad you said that. Let me just say one thing about that before I add my 2 cents,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is, I love you described it as nectar, and that all women have that within us. It is like that is the essence of feminine presence.
Mm,
And we all have masculine within us. I love my masculine genius. I love being able to go
totally.
on an interview and be able to check things off my list and write all the emails and do all the things. But just like that is it is magnetic. It is healing. It is intoxicating. So I just love that you said that. Um, it reminds me of that beautiful Mary Oliver quote that I think everyone in the world knows by now, which is, let the soft animal let the soft animal of your body love what it loves.
Mm.
And that's just what I pictured when I imagine you dancing even for 25 seconds, is just like this animal of my body gets to love what it loves in this moment. Um, this is just adding to it, especially if you don't have a space to do any dance. I just call this like leaning into your senses, and all it means is you just pick a sense, like smell. And so you're riding, on the bus or in your car, and you just say, okay, whatever it is that I smell, I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to, if I'm experiencing it at a level of 3 on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to dial it up and experience it more. I'm going to let more in, or I'm going to lean more into it. So it's like a 6 or a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10. Can I, look? Can I lean into my sense of sight? And can I look at the leaves on a tree and like really let the colors be saturated and really let them into my body? And so it's a way to not discount all of the wonderful 5 senses we've got going on all the time, but really just, dive into them and let them become
Mm.
richer,
Mm-hmm.
and really just affect us and affect our bodies a bit more. And I'm a dancer in my background, so I'm way into your sensual dance. That's for you. But that's something I can do when I can't dance. When I can't dance. Yeah.
I love that. And what do you have a go-to scent, or do you have essential oils, or is there something that you kind of turn to if you can't dance, for example?
Well, I'll try to pick them all. I just like grab whatever's near. I'm actually looking at it right now. I keep rose water spritz on my desk, and I'll spray myself so I get this little mist of rose water.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do jasmine and rose essential oils. Um, I go through these phases. When I was writing this book, I could not smell anything that wasn't roses. And then after the book, I just wanted citrus. I just wanted grapefruit and lemon. And, I would just like go sniff the citrus at the grocery store. So I think, there just must be some cool thing my body's getting out of it that it gravitates toward one or the other. I could also, sometimes even just stretch. If I can't move around the room, even just bring a little bit of like that's like a mini sensual dance. Let me stretch this, my
Mm.
stiff neck or
Mm-hmm.
my stiff calves or something. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
So what else is there? Like anything? Let's see, how much time do we have? Okay. What else have we not touched upon that women can maybe start doing to sort of tap in a little bit more?
I just got this one thing too. I think,
Yeah.
so this is expanding on what we were saying. So especially for someone who's feeling super dull depleted, who might be coming into your practice because their hormones are all off, or just anybody who's a bit, the shine has been taken off from life. How do I become more sensual? How do I tap into that
Yes.
part of me again? And I think that it can be really nice to actively, how can we put things that activate our sensuality in our daily lives? And this is what I mean by that specifically. So on your desk, if you're working at a desk, can you have something that is visually beautiful to you? Can you have a smell like incense or an essential oil or the rose spray I was talking about? Or you have your cup of tea? Can you have stones that you like to touch, or a feather? Is there a way to put these sensate, tactile, a candle that's lit in the space that you're going to be in your daily life? It could be in your bedroom, it could be in your desk, it could be in your car, so that there you are. You can't move in your environment without being reminded to look deeply and to feel and to smell and to taste deeply. And I think this really, it's good. It just like calls us back to our body and back to our sensuality.
Totally, totally. Yes. And as you're saying this, I'm looking on my desk and I have roses and I've got some little mini tea light candles lit. And I also am a huge essential oil lover. And so I typically will have the diffuser on, or I'll even anoint. Have you ever anointed candles before?
No. How do you do that? Tell me.
Okay. So really easy. I mean, if you have a little tea light, let's just say we'll start there, and it's in a little glass votive thing. If there's a scent that you like, or something that you're like, there's abundance, or there's, let me see, which ones do I have here? There's even like a lemon, or if you want something fresh, there's a citrus blend. And so you would add a couple before you light the candle. You add a couple just along the, not on where the wick is, but right around, and then you light it. And so as it burns, it's actually allowing you to smell the oil. I also have a diffuser, but if you anoint, I usually do sometimes a little ritual depending on, I do feng shui on my desk too. So if I'm thinking about, love or money or whatever it is, I will anoint with a particular oil in that corner of my desk.
Oh, I love that. And just as you're speaking, I'm absolutely going to try that. Thank you.
Yeah.
As you're speaking, it just feels like, just in case any woman is like, oh man, all right, now I gotta put another thing on my to-do list where I what did Margaret and Liyana say? Be more sensual. And so I just want to, I think that when we tap into our sensuality, we tap into a part of us that is whole and that is just happy to be ourselves. And so if anybody needs any incentive, this is not like a thing you have to stick on your to-do list. This is like just a beautiful way to come home to yourself.
Absolutely.
Just really like your essential you. Yeah.
And I'm a Taurus, so everything is really about beauty, and things have to like feel like the touch of certain things, and really nice sheets and like fur blankets, and do you know what I mean? It's like all of my senses are being touched, I guess, in a sense.
Yes. And Margaret, this may just be your natural voice. We don't know each other that well, but it strikes me that you are speaking from a very like it plays deep in your body. And I think that's what having contact with our senses, being in our sensual, really does. It takes us out of our head voices that are a little bit higher, disconnected, and really drops us into our being and our body, which I can hear, through the lights. Yeah. Yeah.
No one's ever really said that before.
Oh, well, it feels true to me. Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, now that you're saying it, and when I am talking about my senses, like my hands are touching my chest or my body, or if I'm talking about my heart, it is embodied. But it wasn't always this way. Definitely not. But
yeah,
it's very embodied now, and I can tap right into and dive into the pool when I need to, which is every day.
Yes.
And I can be very intentional with it too, as I'm sure you can as well.
Yeah, and this used to be very difficult to make it. You were talking a little bit about making a transition from a more masculine way of being, or a more head way of being, head, thought, logic way of being, into a more embodied feminine way of being. And it's I've really gotten most of the glitches out. It's a pretty smooth transition, but something I've been cultivating for a while. So yeah.
So good. So how can and was that the tip? Is that because I had asked if there was anything in addition. Was that it? Your last point?
I wanted to add that about, putting sensual stuff in your space. I wanted to add that. I know we're getting to the end of we're heading up against our parameters here. So yes, let me leave it at that, and see where you're taking us.
Well, I wanted to find out how people can reach you, how they can find you.
So I just love this. I love what you're doing. Thank you for having me on this conversation.
Thank you.
So, a really easy way to get in touch with me, I would say 2 ways. One is Facebook, if that is a way that you still feel comfortable with in this day and age. My page is facebook.com/feminine genius. And I'm there to actually talk. We could talk. We can have a conversation. And I post all kinds of stuff there, new articles and thoughts and Facebook Live videos. As far as my book, it is wherever books are. If you want, you can come to my website, which is liyanasilver.com. And then if you go /new book, you still buy the book wherever you buy it, but you can put your information there and get a bunch of bonuses. And then you're there on my website, and you can see you can come grab that free exercise. I've got 4 other ones. It's just a really resource rich kind of place. And that's another great way to connect.
And Liyana is Liyana silver.com /new book.
Exactly.
Okay.
/new book.
I'll have that in the show notes. Okay, great.
Awesome. And, quite honestly, I am not I'm a busy person just like everybody else, but I'm not in an ivory tower or a fortress around me. And it's really food for me to hear from people who are dipping their toes in the feminine genius waters and have questions and are, sharing what's coming alive for them. And that's why I do that. That's my nectar,
Have you held any live retreats, or will you be?
I will. I have a wonderful immersive program that I've taken a break from for 2 years, partly because I've got a bunch of online programs coming, and that's taken everything I've got, and partly because I wrote my book. So, we'll be coming back around, which I love. I mean, it's hard to talk about the feminine and not be in the same time and space and with our bodies in proximity. So I can't wait to get those back going again. Yeah.
Fabulous. Fantastic. Yeah. All right. Well, 3 really quick questions before we end our call today.
Yes.
Okay. Always so curious to find out what is currently on your bedside table.
Oh, I am a big poetry lover, and there's a poet named Nayyirah Waheed, and she's new to me. I know that I feel like her poems get shared with me a lot, and so I have a book of hers called Salt. And she writes these sort of minimal, almost E.E. Cummings like spare poems. And so I do a little bit like runes casting. I just open up and read a poem of hers before bed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you wear to bed?
It's very cost efficient. I wear nothing. And
Great.
I used to be really self-conscious. I don't know. I couldn't even be with me and be naked in bed. But now I get to feel those sheets that I really love, like you and your Taurus self. So I'm all about sleeping in the bus.
It's so interesting that the majority of the women that come on this podcast, I'd say 90% all sleep nude.
How interesting.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love it.
And we talked about a book already. Tell me, what is one of your favorite apps that you use?
Oh, great question. All right, let me go look on my phone and see. I I haven't used it in a while, but it's just quirky and I love it. It's called Hormone Horoscope.
Oh,
And you put in, yeah, do you know it?
no. Tell me more.
It's very lovely. Hormone Horoscope. And so you put in the days as much as you know of your cycle if you're cycling. And or it doesn't even matter, you can guess. And then you get this little horoscope and, sometimes even a little tip. Like today, you're probably going to want to stay away from the extra caffeine because that's just going to make your mood really tank, and make sure you do something nice like a bath. And today you're going to feel awesome. And so just toss your hair and, know that you're hot stuff because you are. Oh, it's just lovely. Yeah. So it's got, I think you'd probably appreciate it. So it's got some, understanding of where women are at in our cycles, and then cute little tip of how to make the best of the day.
I love that. I love that. Well, Liyana, you are a true soul sister. I must say, loved connecting with you today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and for allowing the women listening today to tap into the wisdom that we so innately embody and to really embrace that beautiful, sensual nature of ours.
Well, absolutely, soul sister. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And we just need more women. We need all women to be well and tapping into our bodies and our genius in this way. So thank you for having me on, and thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you so much. Hope you loved this conversation with Liyana, and maybe you'll be able to spend some time this weekend putting some of those tips into practice. To learn more about her and for all the show notes, head on over to margaretromero.com/episode 78. And if you know anyone who is currently suffering from lupus, I am offering a 7-day free challenge. If you're interested in checking that out, head on over to margaretromero.com/challenge. Hope to talk to you all next week. Much love. Big hugs. Thanks so much for listening in. Bye for now.